Good morning, friends. It's Michelle from Little Farm in the Valley. It is an absolutely beautiful morning on the farm. I've got my house chickens, as I like to call them, coming up and checking out what's going on around the house constantly. Looks like they're curious about my asparagus experiment, which is just the hard ends that you cut off of asparagus. You're supposed to be able to grow roots out of them if you keep them in water in a jar in the sun for a number of weeks. I've already planted one jar in my garden and I dug it up the other day, and sure enough, I'm starting to see asparagus roots growing. So if you've been wondering what to do with those hard asparagus ends besides throwing them away, it's kind of gross though. It smells really awful, but by golly, it sure seems to be growing roots. So well, we've got another project on the go for you today, and I cannot wait to tell you all about it. Well, to some people, dandelions are a nuisance. To me, dandelions are absolutely great. There's so many wonderful things you can make with dandelions. So we are going to be making a really delicious treat, dandelion jelly. And who knows, maybe I'll pull some out by the roots and see if I can make a tincture or something. I've been wanting to try that too. Well, we've got a beautiful field of dandelions, so let's do this thing. Hey, I never said this would be easy. There's a lot of work involved and it takes some time. It'll take probably an hour to pick, and then it'll take a couple hours to get all the green off. Let me pick one and show you. So that all of this green needs to come off, because if there's any green on your dandelion, supposedly it will make your jelly bitter, but obviously there's always a teeny tiny bit of green that comes into the jelly, and I've never actually experienced it tasting bitter, but you just try to get all the green off that you can. So it's a process. Like I said, it's going to take an hour to pick. It's probably going to take an hour or two to get all the green off, and then we'll move on to some of the next steps. The dogs are going to enjoy it down here, all the hunting. So we better get busy. So we're back to the house with the dandelions, and it's really hard to figure out what the best way is to get this green off, but I think last year I just did this. I just snipped what I could. So obviously you can see that there's still some green, but I just kind of get what I can off there. I'm going to discard this. There's a lot more sticks in there since the kids helped, but that's okay. It's going to take a while to get all these cut, but if there's still a lot of daylight, like right now it's not even noon, towards the end of the day they'll start closing. So you want to do this early in the morning. Well, the sun needs to be out for the dandelions to be open, but kind of that 10 a.m. to noon stretch, because you need a couple hours to do this before they close up. If I had waited till 4 or 5, the dandelions would start shriveling and closing on me. So I think I'll have plenty of time to do this. So I finally got most of the green off. As you can see, there's still a little bit of green there. It took me a long time because I had to step away a few times to check the kids, but luckily I gave myself a lot of time to do this. So our next step will be to boil some water and make a tea out of these dandelion leaves. You're just going to take 4 cups loosely packed of these dandelions, and you're going to put them in a quart and fill it to the top with boiling water. So our water is ready, and we're going to just pour the boiling water right over these dandelion leaves. I actually picked enough that I got 4 quarts. So I will have quite a bit more jelly this year than I had last year, but that is just fine. So I guess I'm going to have to just fill my kettle up a few times until I have enough boiling water to pour all over this. That's going to be 16 cups of boiling water. And then I'm just going to let them cool down a little bit and pop them in the refrigerator until tomorrow. So it's been about 24 hours and I'm taking my dandelion tea out of the fridge. So the next thing that I'm going to do is strain it off and just keep the liquid. So these are my ingredients. I've got my dandelion tea, 4 cups of sugar, a package of Sure Gel, and some real lime. The recipe calls for lemon, but I don't have lemon, and I Googled what to use for jelly when you don't have real lemon, and it said that lime will be the best substitute. Not too happy about it, but that's all I've got right now, so hopefully it'll work. So I like to infuse my dandelion jelly with essential oils for fun. I usually do wild orange, lemon, spearmint, and lavender, and it tastes absolutely wonderful. I don't mix these. I just do certain jars with certain flavors. So we're going to take our 4 cups of the tea and pour it into our pot, along with the pectin and the 2 tablespoons of lemon. In this case, like I said, I don't have lemon, so I'm using lime. And then I'm going to pour my pectin in And we're just going to bring it to a boil. And once it's been boiling for a minute or two, we're going to add our 4 cups of sugar. Get that pectin good and stirred up. Now we're just going to keep an eye on it until it reaches a boil. So this is just wanting to start boiling. You can see the bubbles are on the edge there. So I'll give it maybe a minute more and then we will add the sugar. You can see it's clearing up a little bit already. Seems like any kind of jelly that you make takes a lot of sugar. I have made recipes with that low sugar pectin. But I have not found a dandelion jelly recipe that uses the low or no sugar pectin yet. Get that all stirred in. And then it says to bring it back to a boil and let it boil for another minute or two. And then we can go ahead and get it in jars. So this is back to a boil now. So I think we're just about ready to get this put into jars. So I have separated my jars into 4 different groups to try and kind of keep track of what oil I'm using. My first batch will be the wild orange oil. So I'm just going to do 1 or 2 drops and then I'm going to take my spoon and stir that in really well. And then I'm going to get my lids on and get these set aside. What I normally do is I'll put them next to the bottle of oil to just kind of keep track, since I've got 4 different oils and I can't really mark the jars until they come out of the canner. So it's always kind of a struggle to keep track of your different flavors. But this year I kind of sorted the jars out by size and style, and I think that'll help. So I'm just cleaning the rims of the jars with the hot water that my lids are in. You always want to sanitize your lids in some hot water. Probably boiling, but it did eventually boil. At this point right now, though, I could still reach my hands in there, but the jars are very hot. So I had to grab a hot pad there and get these all closed up. We are going to process these in a water bath canner for just 10 minutes. So that's not too bad. It's gonna go pretty fast, I think. So I'm going to use another size and style of jar. I'm going to do spearmint flavor on these, and I think this way I'll definitely be able to remember I used this size for the mint and this size for the wild orange, and then my lavender is going to be in a different style as well, and the lemon is kind of just going to be in jars that are kind of misfit sizes, but that's the way I hope to be able to remember what flavors. And I only need to remember until they're cooled down enough to mark. So I think this system will work pretty well. Of course, I'd like to be able to get everything in the same jar, but I just have all kinds of different sizes of jars that are all kind of jelly jars. So that's just how it's going to be this year. A couple of these jars are a little bit murky. If you can see, they're not as clear as the other one. I eventually figured out that it boiled longer, but it did in a few minutes clear up. I just poured one back just to see if I hadn't boiled it long enough, but actually I had boiled it a little bit longer than the previous batch, and eventually they did clear up, just like the other jelly. But I was puzzled there for a minute. Got my teeny tiny little bottle of lavender that I'm gonna use to infuse this little batch with. So this mishmash of jars of all different shapes and sizes are kind of the last ones that I had, and these are going to be lemon essential oil. I decided to add a couple extra drops in these really tall jars just because they're almost twice as big as the rest of them. So the water in my water bath canner is just about boiling, so I'm going to get the first batch in there. This is going to be the wild orange, and obviously this is my first time canning in a long time. I forgot to fold up that rack that's in there. I forgot to fold up the little thingies on the side that you can grab. I was puzzled there for a minute why this looks so weird. Then I folded them up and I'm like, okay, now I remember how to do this. And like I said, these just take 10 minutes at my altitude, so it didn't take very long at all for that first batch to be ready. I got quite a few in there. I got all of the wild orange and some of the mint. I was getting my last batch out of the canner and I held the lid for too long and I got a steam burn on my wrist. You can't really see it yet, but man, it's starting to hurt. So I'm gonna grab my lavender oil and liberally put some lavender on there. Talk about a dual purpose oil. It's just good for so many things around the household. I'm so glad I had this standing right here because like I said, you can't even see it yet, but it sure does hurt. So that's gonna help a lot. I've got my last batch in now. All right, the jelly is all out of the canner. Well, this was a lavender, but I had a jar pop in the canner. I don't know if it was just a weak jar or why these things happen, but so I did lose one, but I have 23 that did not break. So this group over here is the wild orange. I have 8 of these. I've got 5 of the spearmint and 6 of the lemon, and then unfortunately just 4 of the lavender because I lost one. So I've got 20, 23 or 24. I feel like this is something that every year I just do a couple more jars of than the year before because I just like it so much. Well, this doesn't make for a very pretty shot, but it's reality. It does happen. We can't hide that fact. So hopefully it won't happen to you, but I highly, highly recommend that you try this jelly. You will probably never view the humble dandelion in the same way again. And there's also so many other uses for dandelions, and I hope to make something with dandelion root as well this year. But just not quite sure yet what. Isn't that beautiful? So it's the next morning and I'm getting out my lemon flavored jelly to try. I put it in the fridge late last night when I checked to see if all of my jars sealed, and they all did seal, so that's an accomplishment. At first glance it looked a little bit runny, but it actually is a very nice thick jelly. So how you would eat this is just how you would eat any other jam or jelly, usually for breakfast is what I like to eat it with. Is I will put it on, in this case I toasted a bun and I'm going to do a breakfast sandwich. So on a bun or toast or bagel, however you want to eat it, I'm going to do a sunny side up egg with some cheese and spread the jelly on both sides of my bun. And that's usually how I enjoy this jelly, and it can also be used to flavor all kinds of drinks and stuff too. So there is my dandelion jelly for you. If you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos. We will talk to you soon.